Hopefully everyone can see that. I see that we've had some voting going on. So thank you to everyone for putting questions in. So should we deal with these as they appear in order? So the first question we have is, what libraries are available inside the visualization environment? Can we install our own? Tom, can I pick on you for this one?
Yes. So we based it on a scientific release of Python. I can't remember what it's actually called. It has quite a few scientific packages, and we haven't run into a situation yet where people have required something new. But it is something we can do. In fact, that's a lie. So I added PyPlot about a month ago, and that was fairly easy for us to do. So if you need new stuff, you can't actually do it yourself, but you can raise it with us, and we can add it in if it's something you require. And obviously, if it's something you require, it's likely to be something that someone else will require as well. So happy to sort of add that.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Are there limits on the resources available to our modeling code? Example, memory. That question just disappeared off the screen. I don't know why, but hopefully you got that. Are there any limits?
There are limits, yeah. So at the minute, I think the limit of our model is the memory is 64 gig, but we can increase that on a case-by-case basis. CPUs, I think we're limited to 32 at the minute because of a limitation on our back end, so 32 cores. Just because each of our nodes only has 32 cores, but we could, again, we found I think we have a way of increasing that in future. And if it's something you require, then do let us know, and we can look into it.
Okay, anyone else wanting to come in there? Shall I move on? Okay. So who owns the data uploaded on DAFNI? What kind of permission is required from the original data source? Who's responsible to sort this out? That's Bethan or Brian, I think.
Yeah, I can have a first go at this, I guess. So in terms of uploading data onto DAFNI, as I said, there are two types of data upload. One is one which is curated centrally by the DAFNI team, and that's typically for larger data sets and is a piece of work that we're bringing online at the moment. So there we would make agreements with the data providers and ensure that that was all kind of above board and agreed. When it comes to data being uploaded onto the DAFNI platform by users, then it is on the users to ensure that they're doing this within the bounds of the licensing of that original data set. I don't know if Brian wants to say anything else.
No, that is how it works at the moment. I mean, we for sort of large and generally used data sets, we are discussing with particular providers, for example, the Ordnance Survey for basic mapping data, Office of National Statistics for sort of some of their data, for some of the environmental data we're looking at getting on the platform as generally available, and we would sort out the licenses for that. It's kind of why we ask for a license. We want people to be aware of the licensing conditions. I mean, we do default to an open license, CC BY, I think, you can put the license in there as well, and we want people to be aware of that because it is a sort of important part of the conditions. But it is, at the moment at least, somewhat on the user to do that.
I think just to add as well that that upload is transparent, so we do have a record of that upload and who made that upload. So if you suspect that somebody's using your data in a way inappropriately on the DAFNI platform, then tell us and we can track that down.
And I think as Bethan showed, it is something that is, you have control over who else on the platform you can share it with. So it gives that power of keeping it restricted to your team if you need to.
Okay, thank you both. Is it appropriate to store personal, example, non-anonymized data on DAFNI if we can keep it private? I guess that you've kind of answered that already. Can we make sure it isn't made public accidentally?
Yes. Yes. Making it public is actually, so in order to make it public, you have to make a request to the DAFNI team. So that would be Tom, I, and Brian, in order to have that data set opened up. And then there's a manual step where we would say, yes, that's okay. So making it public by accident is not really a thing.
Yeah. There are some, I mean, we ask people to sign a statement around GDPR when they sign onto the system. This is an area I think maybe we would want, if there was personal sensitive data, I think we would want to be aware of it. I think it would be a case of we would want to know. So, because we would want to make sure that really was kept safe. So it's not something I would, I think we would want to do without extra discussion, to be frank.
Okay. And does DAFNI have built-in AI and machine learning tools?
Shall I answer that? I
mean, please, Brian, yes.
If you're talking about things like TensorFlow or the scikit, whatever it is, I can't remember. It's escaped my top of my head. The answer is no. You can package them up and upload them and use them on the appropriate tools on using the model upload, but we don't actually have them as a sort of available library at the moment. Something the focus to date hasn't been that. Hasn't done that. It's not a development environment in that sense. I can foresee that as we move towards a more digital twin architecture, that we may well add that capability. I can see that would be potentially quite useful. And there's other platforms we host at STFC that do that kind of thing. So it's something that we would look into for the future, but it's not something we do directly at the moment.
Okay, Tom, can I bring you in on this one? Although after the break, we will have 4 examples of models on the platform. Do you want to say something about what models are available, what platform is used to build them?
Yeah, so in terms of platforms, lots of different platforms. So we've had models that are written in Java, Python, R, MATLAB, C++, lots of different things. The whole idea about using Docker to containerize these things is that we can be language agnostic. So in theory, if you've got something that runs on your local machine and you can containerize it with Docker, then you can also run it on DAFNI. In terms of what models are available, the pilot program is probably a good place to start. So we did one about 5G modeling, so how best to place cell towers throughout the UK to get the best coverage and at the best cost. We did one on housing demand, so how UK house prices react to changes in the economy, inflation rate and stuff. One about station demand, so if you to plonk a new station down somewhere in the UK, how many people would go and use that new station as opposed to their pre-existing favourite station or driving, stuff like that. We've got one about simulating migration of people. So if you create jobs and households in a certain area of the UK, how many people would move there to make use of that? There's a whole range of different stuff, and probably too much stuff to go into here. And there's also a load of stuff that people are doing in their own little bubbles. So we're working with a group called OpenClim at the minute, and they're doing a load of research about climate modeling, and they're producing lots of different models that are going onto the platform. We've got the NISMod package of models, which some of you will be familiar with. It's a whole range of different models covering a broad range of infrastructure. So I think it's kind of hard to quantify here the range, but I think if you get access to the platform, hopefully you'll see the stuff that's on there, and that's probably the best way.
I would also say that on the public website, there are quite a lot of blogs, use cases, user stories about champions, which describe some of the work that's gone on the platform. So that's a good place to look for the types of examples that are already on the platform.
Thank you. So Stephen has asked a question. I think Adrian and Tom, sorry, Tom, bring you in again. DAFNI model coupling, can it interface the time series models for, say, transport and energy to derive optimal resource and infrastructure provision, multiple run? Are you able to answer that, or someone else come in?
I'm not sure how to answer this. So I'm not a modeler, which is probably why I don't understand. Don't know, Brian.
Maybe could ask a bit of clarification. I mean, if you mean, can you do a sort of parameter sweep over a number of models to and then evaluate each one to kind of assess with them for the optimal conditions. The Tom mentioned sort of iterator function. We can do that in a sort of Monte Carlo way at the moment. And we're sort of adding some extra sort of more parameter sweeping sort of iterators at the moment. So yes, or yes soon.
Anyone else want to come in, or shall we move on to the next one? Okay, thanks, Brian. At the moment, there's a mechanism to stream data into DAFNI. Is there, sorry, a mechanism to stream data into DAFNI? Not necessarily real time, but say weekly automated uploads. Bethan, are you?
Yeah, this is a good and timely question. So at the moment, the short answer is no. There is the way of uploading data is the one that I demonstrated, but the longer and more accurate answer is shortly. So we're currently in the middle of starting a process of building a streaming style. So essentially a cron job based streaming system, working with colleagues at the urban observatories, the UCRIC urban observatories, and that will form a kind of template for us to be able to do this more. So they have sensor data, and we'll be polling that and taking a copy of it every few minutes or so. So that will then create a data set which is which is growing like every 5-10 minutes or something like that. And I was going to say also that that's an example that we're putting together now with the urban observatories, which is a kind of pilot test case for doing more of this. And so if there are other data sets out there which would be valuable to be streamed onto the DAFNI platform, then now would be a really great time to hear about them. So we can include that in our consideration of the architecture. But we expect that to come online for the urban observatories in then the next few months, I would say. So towards the end of the year, towards the summer.
We do a little bit of this already. There is a special case of the timetable data which we've done, but that's a sort of special case, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's an example of using a model to do that. And I think that one was a special case. So I guess if it's urgent, then we can set up something like that. And that's a bespoke model to poll an API on the platform. Yeah. I think, is that right, Tom? You set it up?
Yeah.
I mean, what we're doing now is a much more generalizable approach.
Okay, we've got 5 minutes before we break, so I'll try and cover a few more of these. Is there a process in place to allow a company to upload not open data to sell to interested parties Is this outside the scope of DAFNI, Brian? I think.
I don't think we are at the moment really set up to be a marketplace. I mean, certainly we've no problems with the company uploading data and making keeping data restricted to their particular interest group or user group. We wouldn't have any direct capability or would be actually somewhat out of our scope at the moment to arrange a marketplace. I mean, if you were doing that, you probably need to do that separately, and we wouldn't be able to enforce sort of license conditions or anything on a commercial license like that. So sort of all those sorts of commercial transactions would have to be outside our system. We couldn't manage that. We're research. We're essentially a platform for research. We're not a data marketplace.
Okay, and who's allowed to register to use DAFNI? It would be great to be able to show built-in models to students and let them try them. Can it be used for this?
Shall I answer that?
Yes, please, Brian. Yeah, whatever.
Well, several can answer this. The answer is, well, the platform is not, there is no, if you go to DAFNI, you won't find a register here type thing at the moment. It's been, because we've been a development project, we've been sort of kept it to people using our pilots, using developing and champions, developing examples on the platform while we do development. Nevertheless, we have quite extended the number of users quite a lot over the last year. We've now got about 100 users from about a fifth or less of that a year ago. So we are gradually expanding the number of users on the platform. We are very open to people trying out the platform. So if you want to use it to show them to students, we'll be very happy to talk about that. So I mean, the user registration process at the moment is basically contact us, and we'll send to us and saying what and how you want to use the system for, where you're from, who you are, and we can arrange logins. I think that is something we're very open to. So it's get in touch. I think in the future we hope to be essentially available to all, essentially all academic users. So we do want to expand that user base. So so the answer, the very short answer is yes. please get in touch.
Okay, and there's a message there for you, Brian. I'll let you read that. I'm just going to cover
thanks.
one last question before we break, and the rest of the questions we'll cover later on in another question and answer session we've got after the presentations. So the one last question is, can you upload pictures? If so, can these be used as part of AI or machine learning use?
I would say yes.
Okay.
So you can upload pictures. There's no format limitations on what data you upload into a data set. And if you can then feed these data sets, so these pictures, into a model. So if your model is set up to receive these pictures as part of a piece of machine learning, I'm assuming that the model is a machine learning model, then that would be fine.
One perhaps refinement on that is that if you're going to do machine learning over a large collection of images, you'd probably need to sort of package them up as a data set, all those images together, and then run your model over those. So you wouldn't be uploading each individual image, I don't think, in that kind of scenario.
No.